What if the single biggest reason most people never build wealth has nothing to do with money at all? What if it comes down to one invisible battle happening inside your brain every single day without you even realizing it? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The gap between the rich and the poor is not always about income. It is about time. Specifically, how long you are willing to wait for something good. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear will permanently change how you see yourself, your habits, and your future. Let us start with something most people never talk about. Your brain, the one sitting inside your skull right now, was not designed for building wealth. It was designed for one thing only: staying alive. Thousands of years ago, when your ancestors were hunting on open plains, the smartest move was always to take the reward now. Eat the food today. Rest while you can. Do not save for tomorrow, because tomorrow might not come. That instinct is still coded into your nervous system. Psychologists call it present bias, the powerful tendency to value immediate rewards far more than future ones. And it is not a moral failure, it is not laziness, it is biology. But here's where it gets interesting. Imagine two brothers, Marcus and Daniel. They grow up in the same house, same neighborhood, same school. At age 22, both get a small bonus from their first jobs. Marcus immediately spends his on new shoes, a night out, and a phone upgrade. It feels amazing. For about 3 days, Daniel puts his away. It is not exciting. No one congratulates him. Nobody posts about it. But 12 months later, that small decision becomes a foundation, a first step towards something larger. Fast forward 10 years, the gap between Marcus and Daniel is not just financial, it is psychological. It is the difference between someone who is always reacting to life and someone who is designing it. The question is not which brother is smarter. The question is which one learned to override the ancient part of his brain, because that is what separates impulsive behavior from intentional behavior. And intentional behavior is the foundation of every single success story you have ever admired. Now let us go deeper, because this is where most conversations about wealth psychology completely miss the point. There is a powerful concept studied by behavioral economists called the scarcity trap, and it explains something heartbreaking. When a person is constantly struggling financially, when money is always tight, when bills are always looming, when stress is always present, their cognitive bandwidth actually shrinks. Think of your brain like a computer. When too many programs are running in the background, the whole machine slows down. Decision-making suffers. Long-term thinking becomes almost impossible. And the brain instinctively reaches for the fastest, easiest source of relief it can find. That is why someone who is financially stressed is more likely to make impulsive choices, not because they lack intelligence, but because their mental resources are genuinely being consumed by survival pressure. I want you to picture a woman named Carla. Carla works 2 jobs. She is exhausted. Every Friday when her paycheck arrives, there's a small window, maybe a few hours, where the stress lifts. And in that window, the mind whispers, "You deserve something. You worked hard. Treat yourself. Just this once." And she does. A little shopping, a dinner out. Something that feels like a reward for all the pain of the week. But here's the tragedy nobody talks about. Carla is not being irresponsible. She is being human. Her brain is doing exactly what a stress-depleted brain does. It is seeking the fastest exit from discomfort. The problem is that pleasure purchased to escape pain never builds anything. It relieves the pressure for a moment, but it does not change the pressure. And so next Friday arrives, and the cycle repeats. This is not a character flaw. This is a psychological loop. And the only way to break it is not through willpower alone. It is through awareness. Because once you can see the pattern, you are no longer inside it. You are watching it. And watching it is the first step to changing it. Now let us talk about what the other side looks like. Because this is not about suffering without reward. This is not about punishing yourself or living like a monk. This is about something far more sophisticated. Learning to choose which pleasures to delay and which to enjoy fully. Warren Buffett, one of the most studied minds in wealth psychology, has spoken many times about the power of what he calls deferred gratification. Not because he did not enjoy life, but because he understood something most people never grasp. The pleasure of watching something grow over time is far greater than the pleasure of consuming it immediately. When Buffett was a young man in Omaha, he reportedly passed up trips, avoided unnecessary expenses, and redirected nearly everything into his next investment. Not out of fear, not out of deprivation, but out of a vision so vivid, so alive in his mind, that waiting felt exciting rather than painful. That is the psychological shift most people miss entirely. The wealthy do not just delay pleasure through grind and discipline alone. They rewire how pleasure feels in the first place. They find genuine satisfaction in the act of building, not just in the result of spending. Think about that for a moment. When you build something, when you watch a plan come together, when you see effort compound into progress, your brain releases the same chemicals it would from any other reward. The difference is, this reward does not disappear after 3 days. It multiplies. Contrast that with the person who buys the expensive watch on credit. For a moment, there is a surge of identity, a feeling of arrival, a hit of status. But underneath it, almost immediately, comes a quieter anxiety. Because deep down, the brain knows this was borrowed pleasure. It came at a cost. The rich do not just delay gratification. They transform their relationship with it. They turn the waiting into the reward itself. And that is a psychology that anyone, regardless of where they started, can begin to build. Here's the truth that almost no one wants to say out loud. The reason delayed gratification is so difficult, especially for people who have grown up in environments of scarcity, is not weakness, it is conditioning. If you grew up in a home where money was unpredictable, where things disappeared before you could enjoy them, where saving for later often meant losing it before later arrives, then your brain learned a very rational lesson. Get it now, because later is not guaranteed. And that lesson protected you once. It made sense in a world of instability, but carried into adulthood, into a world where patience can pay off, that same lesson becomes a ceiling. Here's what makes this so powerful and so heartbreaking at the same time. The very psychological responses that help someone survive a difficult past can be the exact same responses that prevent them from building a different future. This is not about blame. This is not about looking down on anyone. This is about seeing clearly. Because when you understand why the pattern exists, you stop fighting yourself. You stop labeling yourself as lazy or undisciplined or not good enough. You start asking a better question. What does my brain believe about the future? And is that belief still true today? That single question asked honestly has the power to crack open an entirely new psychology. Not overnight, not easily, but permanently. So where does this leave you? It leaves you at a door. On one side of that door is the version of you that keeps running the old program, reacting to discomfort with instant relief, trading the future for the feeling of right now. On the other side is a version of you who has made one quiet, powerful decision. To start seeing time differently. Not to deny pleasure, not to punish yourself for being human, but to begin, even in the smallest ways, choosing the rewards that compound over the rewards that consume. Because the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not filled with money. It is filled with decisions. Hundreds of small, unglamorous, unnoticed decisions that most people never make. Because they are too busy chasing the relief that keeps them exactly where they are. The person who wakes up at 40 and wonders where it all went. They were not unlucky. They were simply never shown this, but now you have seen it. And that is the moment everything becomes a choice. Not a difficult choice, a clear one. The marshmallow is on the table. The question has always been the same.